How's it going, guys? Football-ManagerYouthDevelopment.co.uk here. In this episode, we're going to take a look at how you can try to prevent injuries to your players on Football Manager. In particular, we're going to be looking at the type of training that you're giving your players and how you can make just really small changes to make sure that your players don't suffer as many injuries as they might be. If you've not done so yet, please do remember to subscribe to the channel. The type of videos I'm going to be making a channel are heavily weighted upon the amount of subscribers that each video gets. So if I do see that a video is getting a number of more subscribers, then that's the type of content that I'm going to be making on the channel. When you're playing Football Manager, of course there are going to be some times when you're not able to prevent a player from getting injured. For example, if your player is tackled during a game and he picks up a serious injury, those are the type of things as a manager that you're not going to be able to control. However, if as a manager you decide to give your player quite a heavy training schedule and he gets injured that way, then these are the type of things that you can try and prevent as a manager. Whenever you're setting up training for your players, there's always a temptation to put your players on a higher training intensity program. Of course, this can improve the player a lot quicker, but having a think about it, if you do this for a young player, there's going to be a lot more risk of them getting injured. So for example, if you're putting a player, or especially a young player, on a training schedule and you're making him lift heavy weights or doing extra training, then this is the type of situation when your player is likely to get injured quicker. My first tip is really just to make sure that you are challenging your players in training, but make sure that you're not pushing them too hard so that there's a chance that they're going to get injured. My second tip is to make sure that you're having a think about the type of training that you're giving your players. So during the pre-season, you might want to focus more on match preparation, for example. So you might be working on new tactics and things like that. So if your team is fluid with a tactic, then you might want to consider letting your players work more on their attributes during pre-season. Potentially the best way to do this is to kind of mix up the type of training that you're giving your players throughout the stages of the season. So yeah, during pre-season, your players are going to be lacking match fitness and things like this. It might be a good idea during pre-season to focus maybe on the fitness of the players, but make sure that you're kind of easing them in to their training programs during the course of the pre-season. You really don't want to be pushing them too hard, especially if they're lacking match fitness and you're putting them on a really high training schedule. The combination of those two things, especially if they're playing a lot of friendlies during the pre-season, you could see your team getting a lot of injuries. My third tip is to always make sure that you're looking at the amount of rest that your players are getting. On the training screen on Football Manager, you are able to give your players rest after they play a football match, or you can give them a rest before they're about to play a big game. If you think about the Christmas period, especially if you're playing as a team in England, your team's going to be playing a lot of games. So the amount of rest that you're giving your players is going to be absolutely crucial. If you've got players that you're looking to play pretty much every single game, if you imagine a player, he might play a game on, say, a Monday, and then you're getting him into training on a Tuesday, getting him into training on a Wednesday, and then he might have another game on a Thursday. The player's going to be pretty knackered. And of course, the more sort of tired a player is, then there's going to be more chance of him getting injured. So for every single player, and every single player is going to be different, guys, you do need to have a look at giving players rest. My fourth and final tip is to just have a look at the type of training that you're giving your players and in terms of their workload. So on Football Manager, you can make your player train for the position that he plays in and also a specific area that, kind of attributes and things. So for example, if you had a midfielder with a strength attribute of 3, you might decide to put him on a more specific training schedule to improve his strength. Of course, the player is going to be working on his positional attributes, plus he's going to be having a look at improving his strength attribute. If you imagine this in real life, so a player might be going to training in the morning, and then in the afternoon you're basically asking him to hit the gym and lift a load of heavy weights. Of course, if a player's got a strength attribute of 3 and he's getting really pushed hard in terms of you're making him lift all heavy weights to improve his strength attributes and things like that, these are the type of things that could cause your players to get a lot pick up more injuries, basically. So it's very important, especially in younger players. Again, I did mention it earlier, but it's very tempting to really put up the intensity of the training on your younger players. But it's important to make sure that you're having a look at how heavy your training is and to make sure that you're not pushing your players too hard in training, and that could be causing them to pick up more injuries. I'm going to call this the end of this particular episode, guys, but I am going to do another follow-up to this video to guide you through some more ways that you can prevent your players from getting injured on Football Manager. If you have enjoyed this video, do remember to drop a like on the video, of course subscribe, and leave your comments below if you have any. Thanks for watching.